Great games are killing games as a service games, and I know that there are people out there that are really excited for that fact. 2023 has been an incredible year for video games, and I, for one, have actually had some of my preconceived notions challenged by what we've seen this year alone. Now, I like games as service games, or at least I like what they could potentially be, but we're seeing a massive shift. So this is a state of the game. We're going to talk about the state of games as a service, why we're seeing a decline, what economic factors are playing into this, and also what really truly competes with games as a service. And the answer is just as simple as that: great games. Great games this year alone. We're talking Cyberpunk, we're talking Starfield, we're talking Hogwarts, we're talking Final Fantasy 16. Now, I just listed off 4 major RPGs that we've seen this year alone, and there's even a bigger one that has come out, and the 5th one that really is, in a way, something just revolutionary that will change the way that people look at the genre going forward. Baldur's Gate 3. Now, when you think about all of those 3 big games, and you think about just the amount of time that you actually have to play video games in this month alone, if you're not a full-time streamer, if you're not Asmongold, if you're not somebody out there who just does this for their own living, well, honestly, we're all both eating good, but also I feel a little bit overwhelmed. But that's what this video is going to explore. We're going to talk about some economic factors. I'm going to really kind of lean into this because I have been interested in this topic for a little while, but it's not just me who's talking about it. Gamers are feeling it, gamers are seeing it, and they're talking about it online. So hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Brian, if you happen to be new around here, but if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for being a part of the 74,850 of y'all who've hit that subscribe button and continue to grow this channel up to the, oh my gosh, I mean, it's crazy to think that we're just on the verge of 75,000. So thank you guys so much for being here. I do believe in transparency. I like to show my numbers, and we're almost to a new month, which I will do a deep dive on all of that for you guys. So hopefully you look forward to that video. But beyond that, I'm going to bring up 2 tweets that just kind of highlight this conversation. Jez Corden over on Twitter says, feels like they're hitting a service game saturation point. There's only so many humans and hours in a day by which that you can sell MTX to players. But we're often told mega budget AAA finite games aren't sustainable too. What to do? Now, Desperus is kind of highlighting this. This is off the back that Sega is canceling Hyenas and some other unannounced titles under development for its European studios. Desperus says the GAAS market is crumbling a lot as of late. It's disappointing to learn that they've decided to cancel Hyenas, especially considering the positive buzz dyslexia just killed me right there. It has generated. It will be intriguing to observe just how things will unfold at this point. And this is really kind of where it comes down to it. If you guys have seen any of the content over Work to Game, right now, a lot of players are frustrated with the state of Final Fantasy 14, and that's a subscription-based single game. Now, that highlight the players that are frustrated are also contrasted by the players who absolutely love it. Games as a service has a way of getting you hooked and holding on to you. Now, I'm going to bring up a clip here from Destin Legary. He recently talked about why he doesn't talk about Destiny 2 anymore. I'll include a link to this video and a tag in the description if you guys want to go listen to him. But he highlights a lot of, I think, what many of us feel about this genre. There is a beauty to this service model. There's a strength there. However, it feels like over the course of the last 5 to 10 years, the quality and the service has continued to dip down while the microtransactions have continued to ramp themselves up. And if you're like me, you're not made of money, right? So we've got work to do, and there is a saturation point, like Ches pointed out, because like me, like you, we only have so much time to sit down and actually play a game. I don't know if you're a full-time streamer. If you are, hello to you and your stream. Thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe, yada, yada, yada. But beyond you, us regular schmoes, I guess for lack of a better word, like, we have varying limits. So I'm sitting here just looking at these 5 massive RPGs. Oh, by the way, didn't even bring up Zelda, but that's just because I'm a little frustrated. Nintendo at the point, bring on the Switch to Nintendo, and I will absolutely be there for it. But beyond that, like, when you start to think about it, that's actually 6 massive RPGs alone that, when you think about how long it takes to play an RPG, this year has you booked up. If you just put a couple of hours in a week. Like the average gamer plays 7.5 hours of games per week. I fall into that category. I do maybe a little bit more on occasion, but that's just because I'm a content creator ish. Let's put a little cap on that one. But all right, so good games, the great games that we've seen this year are, I think, one of the factors that are impacting the games as a service, because it gives you a brand new experience. So I've been able to have these amazing experiences this year alone, and it has caused me the time that I have available to shift away. Now, games as a service isn't going to disappear, but we're going to see some probably changes within the economy of video games due to the economic factors that we're all focusing in on. Because the games as a service does have that RPG element, if we see another year of RPGs like we've seen this year, I think games as a service next year is going to continue to struggle, because these things are actually in more competition than we realize. Because you as a player can have a brand new experience for, let's just say, 60, 70 bucks, or factoring in Game Pass as your games as a service, having a library of games as opposed to one, you end up getting a lot more bang for your buck. And we've seen when economic troubles rise, the video game industry tends to thrive, but it thrives in that sense of I can purchase one game and just kind of live in it, as opposed to having to keep ponying up money. Now, Game Pass will be an interesting factor to see what happens with the current economic status. Obviously, what I'm referring to here is a looming recession. Now, you could say there's no recession coming. I've seen people make that argument. I've seen people look at how everything is, moving, and we're just seeing also the start of massive amounts of layoffs that are happening. And I've been seeing that, especially as a software engineer myself, within the space. So it's important. A couple of things, a couple of life advices that I can just give you right now is pay off your dadgum debts, people. You're gonna get screwed. A lot of people think they can play with debt like it's some kind of freaking puppy. Like, oh, I pay off my credit card balance every month. Well, good for you. You're 1% of the population that actually can manage a credit card. The rest of you have been over marketed and sold a bill of freaking goods, and you happily kind of follow along, because what they realize is they can get you hooked to your bank and your credit card, because it makes you feel like an adult, and then they can hold on to you and beat you over the head with high interest rates for years, and you're just going to thank them for the privilege. This is like video game psychology and credit card psychology, man. I tell you, things are working against us. The reason I wanted to bring up Destiny, especially when it comes to Destiny, we've seen Destiny create these gambling and these hooked mechanics, right? But if you look at the state of Destiny as just a subject matter itself, it's a game that currently a lot of players are frustrated by, because that loop in and of itself, once you've been around that wheel so many times, once you see Zepla and she's frustrated at Final Fantasy, like once you've been around the bend so many times, all of a sudden the mystery and the excitement start to disappear, and then all of a sudden you start to see that like you just keep putting money into the slot machine and you're not getting the same return. And then you shift over into a brand new RPG, Cyberpunk, Starfield, like Hogwarts. Like, it doesn't matter. You're then all of a sudden having a brand new experience, and your dollar per hour of joy skyrockets. And so these good games are, I think, directly hurting this industry. Now, ideally, because games as a service can operate in a well-meaning way, right? Because you want new game, more content, you're liking the multiplayer aspect, you like the online shared world, like those things are attractive. But I think what we're seeing is that pullback due to the over monetization, and we're seeing that over monetization as more of a response to the increasing and rising costs of everything. So I do think that we're going to see games as a service get smaller, and it'll be interesting to see what Sony does, because I know they're investing heavily into this model, because their model of these big tent poles has to be somewhat offset by these smaller games. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, the final thought that I could give you really ends up being a Game Pass type service that encompasses multiple of these kind of games. And I think that's what Sony's trying to build with PlayStation Now, but only time will tell there. Game Pass is already in existence, and it has both games as a service within it. But if you think of the overall meta behind all of that, well, it essentially just gives you the ability to play a lot of different games. And when economics, when your future is uncertain, when you're like me, having to work even harder, working more, you have less time to play games, and that's less time to spend on these microtransactions. And so I think we're just seeing, alongside the economy of our current living and life, that we're seeing a slowdown also within these games that are built to continue to try and attract some money out of your wallet each and every month. Now, I'm not going to shame you for spending money on a video game. I've subscribed to Final Fantasy 14 for well over 10 years. And so that ends up being quite a big bill, but it's one that I was happy to pay. But that's just kind of where we are, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens next, because we're going to continue to see some layoffs. I think we're going to continue to see the looming recession, and then I think what will be interesting to really kind of tell whether this theory proves out to be true or not is that, do we see more of that, I'm just going to go and purchase my game flat out, call it a day, no more expenses, or does something like Game Pass become more valuable to the end user? I do think that's going to be interesting to see, and ultimately, obviously, time will tell, and I'd love to follow this video up. Feel free to sound off with your comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, positive, negative, pushing back on any of the ideas I shared. All ideas here are welcome. I do like to feature those in other videos as well, so just note, leaving a comment might get you in a future video. We'll see what happens. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for being here. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one, but until then, take care.